let's bring in Jeff Paterson, who is brought to you by Greta, the home of our electric watch parties. Greta is Canucks Army's spot to catch the game throughout the season, during the playoffs, the Cup final, and also our place to chill in the off season. Jeff, brought to you by Greta. Are you going to come to Greta with us?
Do you have a day set?
We do. What's going on with the audio?
I don't get an echo.
I hear
We're good now.
All right.
Okay.
Has this been revealed? You holding out on me? I knew that there were plans in the works, but I hadn't heard a day yet.
Well, I keep accidentally leaking the date on the show. Like
you can only leak it once, right?
Well, do you know what I said?
It's out there.
Jeff, I said on the show, I was like, okay, I'm not gonna say the date, but it's between February 20th and 25th. And then I was like, wait, and I go look at the Canucks schedule, and there are 2 games in that span. So you have a 50% chance of being right. My new hint is that it's not a game against the Boston Bruins. So it's February 22nd. We're going to have a Greta event.
I'll check with my schedule and see if I'm free. If it's a Canucks game night, yeah, I mean, obviously we're doing rink wide, so we'll have to, you got to be able to watch the game so you can break it down. So we'll see. I just want to jump in quickly on the Vezina, and we did have this discussion, and I can't believe that you didn't reiterate my point that, while yes, it's the GMs, their goalie coaches are the ones that do the heavy lifting. But according to Betway, Connor Hellebuyck right now is the prohibitive favorite. You can get Hellebuyck at 2 even, Thatcher Demko at 375, and then a huge drop to Jeremy Swayman at 7.
Yeah.
And then beyond that, Cam Talbot is 4th as a long shot. His odds are 17-1.
Yeah, they're going to have to correct that with the way LA's playing.
Right. But yes, it's a 2-horse race, and I think it's a lot closer than that betting board. Maybe it wasn't updated since the 5th shutout of the season for Thatcher Demko last night.
Yeah, because it was funny. We keep an eye on those odds all the time, and Demko was the clear favorite for a while there, and it does change. Obviously, the betting odds do change, but yeah, I just look at it and say it's a 2-horse race. And you're right. The GMs aren't just sitting there and looking at Hockey DB and picking themselves, but they also have opinions.
Sure. Oh, a bunch of them are former goaltenders themselves. They know a little bit about the position. I do hope as this goes along, the Canucks have 3 games left, all 3 of their games against the Winnipeg Jets. Like, I hope we get 2 at the very least head to head. Like, I hope they go starter against starter. The final matchup is game 82 of the regular season, which may not mean it might mean something, but it may mean absolutely nothing. So who knows what kind of lineup you'll get for that one. But Feb 17th here in Vancouver, a Saturday night. If these 2 teams are where they are right now, that will be popping at Rogers Arena.
Okay, so you were at practice today, Canucks practice. We saw metallic helmets. Can we pull these up, Grady? The metallic helmets from today, not chrome.
Not chrome. No, apparently the messaging from the hockey club is that these are metallic blue. And then there was some sort of discussion and debate about, is chrome a color? Is that why? And I'm no expert, but then I had some guy in my timeline weigh in, claimed he had a career in auto detailing and refinishing, and he was an expert. And he said that to his eye, these were chrome and not just metallic. So who knows? But the Canucks, the messaging that their marketing department is going with is this is metallic blue. And I have to say, when I walked in, and we had seen them tease it on that social media thing a month ago, and the end of January, it said January, coming in January. Well, we're getting to the end of January. So you had to figure that we were going to get a look at some point. I walked into the practice rink, or to Rogers Arena for practice, and did not hate at all. Like, I actually thought these were pretty cool looking helmets, and I'm not one that gets too worked up about black skate or matte black or whatever. I think if you win hockey games, the uniforms look pretty good. If they win the Stanley Cup and they're wearing pink pajamas, I think they'd look pretty good in those. Maybe they want to take my fashion advice. Whatever the case, I went in thinking a little gimmicky, seen the Kings, seen the Golden Knights, but I didn't hate these. And so the Canucks were also very clear to point out that this was just a breaking in of new equipment day. They do not have a date yet for wearing these in a game. They don't have a commitment to that either. So if you thought, okay, well, the end of January, and they're already wearing black skate on Saturday against Columbus, that this is the game. No, I think it's just going to be conventional blue against the St. Louis Blues. But it would have been perfect. If ever there was a game against the Blues, this would have been it, I guess. But we'll have to wait to see.
Do it with the white uniforms. Do it with the aways.
So I'm glad you brought that up because I talked to Red Hamilton, the trainer, in the locker room afterwards because I'm a huge proponent. I think San Jose's doing this all the time now where they wear the dark helmet with their white uniform out of the road. And I think it looks really good. And I think this would be a good look for the Vancouver Canucks. And as Red said, problem with these metallics is that they chip. And you don't take a whole bunch of replacements out on the road. And so you can fix them up and patch them up if you're at home, but a little different if you're on a 5-game road trip and you've taken the metallic helmets. So, Dave, I like your thinking, but I also think you're going to be a little disappointed that if we see them in game action, it's probably going to be at home.
JPat, going back to last night's game, what did you make of the new look D pairs, specifically with Hughes and Myers together as well?
I made as much as the coaching staff did because at practice today they were right back to Quinn Hughes with Filip Hronek and Myers and Zadorov, and so I would assume that it really was one night based on the opponent. They could experiment. You and I watched in the first period, and you leaned over to me at one point when it was Hughes and Myers with the Lotto Line out there against the Blackhawks. Like, this is full throttle, it's go time, and the Canucks couldn't get out of their own zone. And it took them like 4 times of regrouping, and eventually Tyler Myers with, an errant pass out to the neutral zone, and the Lotto Line got off the ice, and they essentially flushed 30 or 40 seconds of Lotto Line time against the Chicago Blackhawks. And so, look, I have gone to bat for Tyler Myers. I think he's had a nice bounce back season. I think there's definitely a role for him on this hockey club, but he's not the partner for Quinn Hughes. And so, again, I had no issues with them experimenting against a team like the Blackhawks, but they are better off juicing their lineup and going, full tilt with Hronek and Hughes when they can. I think they wanted to see what did that look like. Can they break them up? What can Hronek do on his own? But, look, I was disappointed. And I think this comes from them raising the bar as a team and an organization this year. And I didn't need them to beat the Blackhawks 10-1 like they beat San Jose in November. But that second period, I mean, they had 3 shots on goal through the first 12 or 13 minutes. They had trouble getting out of their own zone, totally disconnected. They took penalties that would tell you that, with Sam Lafferty putting the puck over the glass from his own end and then the too many men on the ice penalty. So I know your question was about the defense, but I say go back to what was working for you so well, because I didn't like a lot of what I saw from the Vancouver Canucks. Now, they were never threatened, and with Thatcher Demko, I'm not sure, the Blackhawks, if they'd stayed overnight and kept playing, I'm not sure that they were going to score a goal against Thatcher Demko with that lineup. And Dave, they're not all Jason Dickinson. They're all Joey Andersons, if they're anybody.
Yes, that's right.
But yeah, I mean, I just think we expect more from the Vancouver Canucks. We saw them let down a little bit against Toronto, and they got their 2-0 lead, and I thought they looked a little too comfortable for my liking. They have to be better, and they'll face better opponents, and they're going to have to find a way to play a complete game because they didn't do that last night. They did enough to get out in front and then just kind of put it on cruise control.
Oh, you almost said cruise control, which I really like. I'm going to start saying
Not
that.
by design. But.
I'm going to do it by design. Okay, so we focus a lot on the defense. The forwards, obviously, the Lotto Line has had a lot of discussion around it in recent games. Last night, another kind of mediocre performance for them. What do you make of the Lotto Line? And I know you and I talked about this last night. Maybe it's not quite time to split them up because you've got all these other lines going for you right now, which who would have thought that that's what we'd be saying, but maybe not time to split them up. But any concern with the Lotto Line right now?
No concern. I mean, these guys, when they're on, we've seen they're as good as just about anybody in the National Hockey League. They're not on right now. And it does sort of feel like some of the mojo has disappeared here. Rick Tocchet cited the record, though, since he went to that group in New Jersey and he was asked after practice, are you going to stick with them? And he said, we're going to talk about it as coaching staff, but why would we break it up? Even if they're not going, we're still winning right now. And he said they take on so much of the focus of the other team. And I think there is some value to that, where if the other team is loading up to defend that line, then it should free up opportunities for other guys lower in the lineup. And we've seen the Canucks absolutely win those battles at the fringes pretty much all season long. So I would expect that you see Lotto Line to start against the St. Louis Blues, the only team to beat the Canucks in regulation here in calendar year 2024. The Canucks, they remember that. It was referenced after practice today. So, they didn't play poorly in St. Louis, but again, that was the game before the Lotto Line was put together because those guys weren't going individually then. And And now together, they haven't really been going. But I think some of it is Brock Besser's magic has disappeared too. We should point that out. 3 goals in his last 13 games. And I know there were a couple that were overturned in there. But, we were talking about 50 goals. Now, I think, can he get to 40? Yeah, but he's going to have to get back on his horse here. He's going to get to 30. He needs 3 to get to 30. So I'd keep riding them and give them an opportunity. The St. Louis Blues are going to be tired. They play in Calgary tonight, so the Canucks getting a break there. They'll probably see Joel Hofer, a backup goaltender. And then you got the Blue Jackets, another revenge game coming up on Saturday before the All-Star break. So am I worried? No. And I asked JT Miller about, is it just the dog days here? Is it just a lull? Everybody kind of goes through it. I thought I gave him an out, and he dropped it's not about us, man, earlier today. So he didn't want to talk about the struggles of the Lotto Line right now, but I got a kick out of his very sort of determined use of man to let me know that he didn't like the question.
JPat, a season ago, Nils Höglander couldn't earn Bruce Boudreau's trust at all. Felt like he had no confidence. Defensively, felt like he had no confidence. Offensively, in the middle of a breakout season, felt like the last couple of games in particular, he's been dynamite. Outside of just the goal scoring, what's stood out to you about Höglander's game and why he's been able to take such a big step this year?
I love how fearless he is on the forecheck. And there were a couple of examples last night too, where, he always engages, like he gets into the battle. But I remember this from his first training camp. And then when he made the team out of that training camp in the All-Canadian division, it was like he wins way more than his share of battles for a guy his size. And I've always admired that about him. And it's not easy. Like, you're going up against the best of the best. These are elite athletes in the National Hockey League and guys that are way bigger and heavier than him. And we saw again last night that there were some opportunities. His ability, like when it looks like he's sealed off against the boards, and you still see like his motor is running and his stick is able to pull pucks out of skates, to keep plays alive, to extend plays. And, it's a skill. Like it's maybe not something you think about with, puck retrievals and those types of things, but it's just the fact that engine is always going. And then when he gets opportunities to finish, like he did against the Leafs the other night, the last 2 times he scored twice against the Rangers and against the Maple Leafs. He's up to 14 goals. And I did the math last night, like heading into that game, bottom 6 against bottom 6. And again, these are the Blackhawks, but the Blackhawks bottom 6 forwards as constructed last night had 15 goals total for the season. And Hglander, of course, has 14 himself as part of a bottom 6 that has 51. So, not a fair fight in that regard. But I just like how there is absolutely no quit on him. And I think the confidence is there, to the point, guys, that I had the opportunity after practice today to ask Rick Tocchet, because I wrote about it on Sunday at CanucksArmy and just said it's time. Like, this isn't going to change the complexion of the Vancouver Canucks, but you've got a 14-goal scorer, 4th on this team in goals scored, and he can't get a sniff of the power play where, Mikheyev doesn't have a power play goal. Sam Lafferty doesn't have a power play goal. Even Connor Garland doesn't have a power play goal this year. Like, how can you not carve out a little role on power play 2 for a 14-goal scorer? And Tocchet admitted that it is something they are considering here. But he said it's also down to fit. He says it's a lefty-righty thing. It's, is he a half-wall guy? Is he a net front? He said maybe it's time to find out. So he certainly admitted that the door is open. It's something that they have discussed. But in the same breath, he also said, we have to be careful because the way that we are deploying him right now is bringing out the best in him. And then he said that's the battle with coaches is, too much too soon. And he pointed out when he put him up with JT and Brock earlier this season at 5-on-5, he said it worked for a game or two, and then his play really fell off. So it was just good. Again, I applaud Rick Tocchet. You ask a question, he gives you an honest answer and, what he's thinking, and sort of invites you into his world. So I thought, decent explanation, put the question out there. Maybe we'll see Hglander on power play 2 again. Whether we do, it's not going to change the way the Vancouver Canucks roll. But I just think as a little bit of shine and a reward for a guy that's had a terrific season, how can you keep a 14-goal scorer off your second power play unit?
When you tell me about answers like that from Rick Tocchet, or when Rick Tocchet answers a question so candidly and so openly, like, it doesn't get mad that you're asking if Hglander should be on PP too. I always think back to like, how would this coach have answered that? And like,
right, because the question could be perceived by the coach like, who are you to tell me who should be on my power play? And it wasn't that way. It was just, what would Nils Höglander have to do to get some power play time on this team. And took the question at face value and gave me a terrific answer. And so I absolutely appreciate that.
I think Travis would have given you a, what do you mean by that? And then tried to get into a little banter back and forth with you.
Yeah, been there, done that a few times.
All right. Jeff, thanks so much for joining us. We look forward to you every Tuesday. And of course, we'll be breaking down ponderings. Have we said it's Paterson's ponderings yet?
I haven't heard that word in months.
2024. I thought I might bring it back.
Yeah.
Paterson's Point over at Canucks Army. Jeff Paterson, thanks so much for joining us. Canucks Conversation with Harmon and Quads every weekday at 2 p.m. Be sure to check it out on the Canucks Army YouTube channel. And if you missed it, go check it out on your favorite podcast catcher app.